So this is the 14:05 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel, being broadcast only on the internet, not on satellite, not on terrestrial, not on cable networks. And this is being broadcast under the banner of the BabyAngelGeronimo editions, Khoodeelaar television channel, on Tuesday, the 16th of May 2023. One of the things that Rupert Murdoch does is divert attention from the truth about what is happening in the name of politics in the United Kingdom. And the fact that Rupert Murdoch is called Dirty Digger is based entirely on the evidence of the role that the Dirty Digger has made the central function of its so-called media in Britain, fronted by the populist daily The Sun, which he called scum. Despite the fact that Brian Levison, the former High Court judge who was given the task to chair the Levison Committee in 2011 by the sleazeball David Cameron, he didn't actually make the recommendations that the evidence warranted, but the proceedings, the actual contents of the evidence or the actual contents of many of the evidence presented during the Levison inquiry showed without any doubt, and for the first time ever in public in the United Kingdom, the extent of the perversion of the truth and the lying and the corruption of British politics by Rupert Murdoch. Now today, the 16th of May 2023, is also the day when the Fleet Street newspapers are the subject of the huge criminality and corruption as being claimed in the High Court as part of the particular action against the newspapers, as it was called. It's called the Daily Mirror fronted newspaper group. So far, the Mirror Group newspapers has paid £100 million in settling claims made by many people, most of them not publicly identified, claims made against the Daily Mirror, the Sunday Mirror, and the people, all of them constituting the same group, the Mirror Group newspapers. Phone hacking and lying and illegal gathering of information about people such as Elton John and others. But the lead name, because he is a member of the royal family, is of course Harry Windsor. So what is the actual coverage by this scum about the Mirror Group newspapers. Let's check if this scum, which is supposed to be the rival in commercial terms, Mirror Group successfully fights off. Well, this is not today's items. I'm just looking for today's item. So there's one item. This one is on the website called Euro News. And it says the Mirror Group newspapers apologizes to Prince Harry over phone hacking as trial begins. And it says that MGM, who represent the Mirror newspaper, have apologized to Britain's Prince Harry over phone hacking claims as a high-profile case begins in London. Prince Harry has received an apology from the publishers of UK newspaper The Mirror, who have admitted to using unlawful methods to gather information in the 2000s. Mirror Group newspapers, MGN, have reached out to British Prince as a trial over alleged phone hacking begins at the High Court in London. MGN released a statement saying they unreservedly apologize for their practices used to obtain information on Prince Harry and other high profile figures, adding that the royals' legal challenge warrants compensation and that they would never again repeat the unlawful behavior. Although Prince Harry flew back to his adopted home of California shortly after his father's coronation on Saturday, he is expected to return to give evidence next month, that is in June, during a trial expected to run for 6 or 7 weeks. Prince Harry's lawyer, David Sherborne, claimed in his opening statement that the scale and extent of the illegal methods used were part of the newspaper's modus operandi in the 2000s, and that almost every journalist in the organization, including then editor Piers Moron, used them as part of their normal work process. He also alleges that MGM executives knew about widespread phone hacking at the Mirror but failed to act. Lawyers from the Royals team told the court that Harry was subjected to the most intrusive methods of obtaining personal information. In rebuttal, Andrew Green, King's counsel, who represents the MGN, claims the publisher will continue to deny allegations of voicemail interception in the cases being examined during the trial, also alleging that some of the challenges brought have passed the legal time limit in line with the UK's Statute of Limitations laws. The case follows a previous hearing, which has told that the Mirror published 148 articles between 1996 and 2010, including information which was allegedly obtained through methods including phone hacking. So there is a lot of claims, including claims by the estate of the late singer George Michael and the royal family actor Ricky Tomlinson, claiming against MGN and a number of so-called test cases, including Harry's, have been selected to go to trial from the wide group of claimants. Now, let's go back to the search for the 100 million pounds MGN has already paid. Now, here is the piece on the journalist Omid Scobie in the Press Gazette, dated yesterday, 15th of May 2023. And the heading in this Press Gazette piece is Royal Journalist Denies Having Vested Interest in Helping Prince Harry Amid Hacking Trial. Omid Scobie recalls allegedly being instructed to listen to voicemails while on work experience. So here is this. The author of a biography on the Duke of Sussex has denied having a vested interest in helping Prince Harry, the High Court has heard. Omid Scobie, co-author of the biography Finding Freedom about Harry and the Duchess of Sussex, entered the witness box on Monday as part of the trial in claims brought by several high-profile individuals, including Harry, against Mirror Group newspapers. MGN, publisher of the Mirror, Sunday Mirror, and the Sunday People, is accused of unlawful information gathering, including voicemail interception, securing information through deception, and hiring private investigators for unlawful activities. The publisher is entering, I'll read that again. The publisher is contesting the cases and has also said that there is no evidence or no sufficient evidence of voicemail interception in any of the four claims chosen as representative cases. The court heard that as a journalism student, Scobie spent a week at the Sunday People, where he claims he was given a list of mobile numbers followed by a detailed verbal description of how to listen to voicemails as if it were a routine news gathering technique. In his witness statement, Scobie continued, I was taken aback by what seemed completely immoral, and I never carried out the task. Mr. Justice Fancourt was told that in spring 2002, Scobie did work experience at the Daily Mirror and allegedly overheard then editor Piers Morgan being told that information relating to Kylie Minogue and her boyfriend had come from voicemails. The High Court in London was also told there is an invoice from a private investigator from, I'll read that again. The High Court in London was also told there is an invoice from a private investigator firm for £170 addressed to a showbiz journalist at the paper for K. Minogue. The royal commentator continued in his written evidence. I shall read that in a short while. In his written evidence, he said, I recall that during one of those days in the office, which housed the 3 a.m. team and some showbiz journalists in the same section, the editor of the newspaper, Piers Morgan, came over to talk with someone, I do not recall who, about the story in the works on Kylie Minogue and her on-off at the time boyfriend James Gooding. Mr. Morgan was asking how confident they were in the reporting and was told that the information had come from voicemails. I recall being surprised to hear this at the time, which is why it stuck in my mind. Scobie added he was not totally shocked by this following his experience at the Sunday People. Morgan, who was the Mirror's editor between 1995 and 2004, which is 9 years, has repeatedly denied involvement in phone hacking. He told the BBC this last week, I think phone hacking is completely wrong and shouldn't have been happening, and it was lazy journalists being lazy. Scobie linked to Harry and Meghan due to factors out of my control. At the start of his cross-examination, Andrew Green, King's counsel for the Mirror Group newspapers, described Finding Freedom, Scobie's book written with the fellow journalist Caroline Durand, as favorable to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It was fair, Scobie replied. The barrister later asked whether the reporter's career is to some extent linked to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Scobie said, I would say that a lot of that would be due to factors out of my control. The royal correspondent later said he was a journalist trying to do my job. Green said, do you have a vested interest in helping the Duke of Sussex if the opportunity arises? No. What I am doing right now is giving ammunition to the tabloids to continue calling me his friend, Scobie replied. The royal correspondent said he did not have Harry's mobile number, adding he was wrongly described as Meghan's mouthpiece and cheerleader for the couple. He continued, I'm a member of the press trying to do my job. What I am doing today is making my life more difficult. Ex Sunday Mirror reporter Dan Evans, who was described as the paper's former in house hacker, also entered the witness box on Monday. Evans, who later joined the now defunct News of the World, subsequently admitted phone hacking and was given a 10-month suspended prison sentence, alleged there was endemic criminality at both the News of the World and the MGN. He alleged that many people at MGN titles were involved in what I today honestly believe to be one of the longest and most developed corporate criminal conspiracies in British history. In written submissions, Green previously said there was some evidence of third parties being instructed to carry out other forms of unlawful information gathering, except in the case of actor Michael Turner, known professionally as Michael Labille. He told the court, where that is so, MGN has made admissions. But for many of these, there is simply no evidence they engaged in unlawful information gathering at all, etc., etc. Now, this is the kind of tenor of the proceedings that are taking place right now or this week in the High Court in London. And the use of the words criminality taking place at the Mirror Group newspapers really highlights the actual character of these newspapers, the tabloids, the criminal organizations. They're not publishing the truth, they're not publishing news, and they're not reporting for society. And the role of the so called non tabloid papers, let's say what they're doing this afternoon, what they're saying in the case of the, let's check the website of the Guardian. And we shall do that first, and then we shall look at the corresponding website of the Times. Now, here is the latest piece on the Guardian's website about this same trial or same case. Prince Harry begins second legal case against Home Office over personal security. A decision to not allow the Duke of Sussex to pay for police protection while in the UK was unlawful, his lawyers have claimed, as he launched a second legal challenge against the Home Office over his security arrangements. At a High Court hearing in London, lawyers for Prince Harry argued he should be given the go ahead to bring a case over the decision of the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, referred to in court papers as RABEC, that people should not be allowed to pay privately for their protective security. Lawyers for the Home Office argued it was not appropriate for wealthy people to be able to buy specialist armed police protective security. The Duke's lawyer said that the decision by Rabek was inconsistent with the 1996 Police Act, which allows the chief officer of the police to provide special services subject to payment. Harry's renewed case is related to an earlier attempt to challenge the decision that he should no longer be given the same degree of personal protective security when visiting the United Kingdom after stepping back as a working royal and moving to the United States. Shahid Fatima, King's counsel for Harry, said the case raised an important issue of principle. She said the argument relied on the Rabek that allowing payment for protective security is contrary to the public interest and will undermine public confidence in the Metropolitan Police Service, could not be reconciled with the fact that Parliament had expressly allowed for payment for such services. She said Rabek had not provided any principled or rational basis for drawing a distinction between the provision of protective security for those individuals within Rabek cohort who, according to the funding decision, are not permitted to privately fund protective security, and other private individuals who could privately fund private protective security by making a request to the chief officer of the police. She told the court Rabek had exceeded its authority, its powers, because it doesn't have the power to make this decision in the first place. Matthew Butt, King's counsel for the Metropolitan Police, told the court such specialist policing exposed officers to unique tasks, and that Rabek decided what was in the public interest. It cannot be right that officers are expected to expose themselves to that level of risk, not in the public interest, but because the policing body has been financially compensated. That can only be justified with public interest. In written submission, the MAT said it was wrong for a policing body to place officers in harm's way upon payment of a fee by a private individual. The judge, Mr. Justice Chamberlain, asked if there was a difference between someone seeking special policing for a private event on private land, such as a festival, a celebrity wedding, or football match, and that of a bodyguard. Harry's lawyer said it was not a case of bodyguard, it was protection at a particular location. Harry has claimed the decision by Rabek was unlawful, unreasonable, and that he was not given the opportunity to be consulted prior to the decision being made. Robert Palmer, King's counsel for the Home Office, said this was not about crowd control at a football match or marathon or other similar event. It was about specialist protective security for an individual. He said Rabek's decision was not unlawful and it was simply the setting of a policy principle. There was legal uncertainty over whether the provision of protective security fell under the relevant section of the Police Act. He said in written submissions, the funding decision arose because the claimant suggested, in connection with the first judicial review, that he was or might be, it being unclear, willing privately to fund the protective security he sought, supplied by the Metropolitan Police Service. He added, in essence, Rabek considered that it was not appropriate to support an outcome whereby wealthy individuals could buy protective security from specialist police officers, potentially including armed officers, in circumstances where Rabeck has determined that the public interest does not warrant that individuals receive such protective security on a publicly funded basis. That would be precisely the effect of the claimant's claim. Rabeck, which is said, includes senior officials from the Home Office, the Metropolitan Police, and the royal household, was not required to give Harry the chance to make representations, Palmer said. He added, given the nature of the arguments now advanced by the claimant, the court can be confident that such representations would have been highly likely to have made no substantial difference in any event. He said, the funding decision does not preclude any individual, including the claimant, from applying to any chief officer directly and seeking to persuade them to provide protective security as a special police service. The fact that the Metropolitan Police Service has set out in its summary grounds that such an application to it would be likely to be refused is practically unsurprising where the Metropolitan Police Service was represented on Rabeck and agreed with the concerns of principle set out in the funding decision. The case is among 5 other civil cases the Duke is pursuing through the courts in London. The judge will give a ruling at a later date. That is the one about the security. So Harry is involved in a number of High Court actions, both against the Fleet Street papers as well as against the Home Office, and as described in the description of who Rabeck is made of, against part of the royal family. Now, what this is doing is actually focusing attention on something very central to the Constitution of the United Kingdom. This argument that I have just read from the copy in the PA Media copy published in the UK Press Gazette is the kind of argument that has not been seen in public anywhere in the context of the United Kingdom royal family before. And the fact that it is happening shows that Harry is taking part in something which, the word used by Tina Brown, his jihad against the tabloid media, is really opening the royal family to accountability of a level to an extent that has not happened before. But this is a kind of accountability, arguments, scrutiny that should have been taking place long ago. So, although the tabloids, for example, the Times newspapers, co-sister publication, the Time, the Sun, and the Sun on Sunday, and the Daily Mail Group, in addition to the Mirror Group newspapers, they have been kind of picking. They've been picking at Harry under any pretext, any excuse. Now, this campaign, the Khoodeelaar campaign, is not commenting as part of any agenda to support Harry or not to support Harry. This is to bring the focus on the actual evidence, which is unique in that there is no record of any such proceedings taking place before. And the importance is that the tabloid newspapers are being exposed as liars, criminal organizations. And the fact that there was this attempt by King Brian, while Brian was Prince of Wales and Brenda was still alive, to stop Harry from pursuing his court cases against the tabloids shows that members of the monarchy, in the person of the current King Brian, are centrally vulnerable to criticism that they have been party to the illegality, the corruption, the criminality of the agenda and the narratives of the tabloid newspapers. And the fact that Harry didn't agree to shut up as wanted by the late Brenda or the current King Brian shows that he has confidence in the truthfulness of his claims, and he has confidence in the fact that if he doesn't continue with the claims that he started against these tabloids, and by implication against the tabloids' colluders, the royal family, that nobody else, no other source exists for him to be vindicated, to get justice, to get support, get fairness. Now, if Harry cannot feel confident about getting justice from other sources, then no ordinary member of the public can, in a similar situation, expect to get justice and fairness and vindication for the truth. So, what we are faced with is that the royal family is involved in the biggest, most high profile set of allegations and alleged criminality being done by the fourth estate, the media. And that is not just the one-off criminality and lack of fairness, lack of transparency. This is in addition to the fact that widespread claims against the London Metropolitan Police continue to be made about its criminality and its corruption and its lack of accountability, lack of reliability, lack of transparency, as has been happening with the case of the latest former detective who has been reported today as having failed to do the timely act that would have stopped Wayne Couzens from attacking Sarah Everard, literally hours before Sarah Everard was kidnapped by this rapist and kidnapper and murderer, Wayne Couzens. Information was made available to this individual, police woman, and she didn't do anything. If she had done the necessary thing, which logically would have led to Wayne Couzens being arrested, then literally on a physical basis, he would have been physically prevented from even approaching Sarah Everard, being on the street, being free to kidnap Sarah Everard and then rape her, murder her, and then burn her body. So, what kind of state is this United Kingdom in? So, let's go to the Guardian's website again and see what else they have got. So, what is happening with this item, what is called the Conservatism Conference, is that a speaker at the UK Conservatism event echoes fascists in attack on globalists. We have got in the rest of the press on Tuesday huge promotion, huge big promotion for this Ukrainian Zelensky, who comes across as a parasite. Why are the British media, the British establishment, funding and promoting this parasite instead of looking at bringing an end to war, bringing an end to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine? That's a question that will have to be addressed in detail in our commentary in essay form because of the length, complexity of the issues concerned. But the essential question is, why are the British playing to this parasite's purpose instead of trying to bring an end to the war, whoever started the war and whatever the particular details? Because it seems to me, on the evidence of the reports in the papers, that they have got the parasite has turned the West into an extension of his war efforts against Russia. Is that what will bring peace? Is that what the world needs? Because by definition, any agenda to continue, perpetuate a war confrontation is bound to continue with losses and further war, further extensions to the war efforts. Now, compared to that, let's go to the Daily Mail's extension called the I newspaper, which just got on the front page. UK backs Ukraine to join NATO. Clearly, the parasite is getting the NATO to become part of Ukraine's agenda. I mean, is that in the best interest of the world? Best interest of peace? Again, it's a question of essay length discussion that we'll have to have. Now, another piece, of course, is Suela Ibila Cruella Fernandez. She is being accused of trying to defeat Kemi Badenoch, the African origin black conservative, as the successor to Rishi Sunak as the leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister. And what is happening in the latest online reports today about Rishi Sunak himself talking about trying to water down the European human rights principles. This is not anything new, and this is not original on the part of Rishi Sunak. This is the fascist agenda, has been going on for the entire duration of the Brexit propaganda. Let's check on the Sunak is trying to water down ECHR. Okay, so this is the one that is on the website of the iNewspaper, which is Rwanda deportation. Story MPs call for UK to withdraw from ECHR after last minute ruling stops flight. Now, this is conservative MPs have reacted with fury to the ruling by European court that led to the cancellation of the first deportation flight taking asylum seekers to Rwanda. It has prompted fresh demands for the UK to pull out of the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR. Backbencher Andrea Jenkins tweeted, "Yes, let's withdraw from European Court of Human Rights and stop their meddling in British law." Now, this is the this is the print version of the same piece in the Independent. But it's a byline to another reporter, not Ferguson, it's a chaplain, Chloe Chaplain. Sunak will urge European leaders to all ECHR. Rishi Sunak will use a meeting with European leaders to urge his counterparts to overhaul the powers of the European Court of Human Rights to prevent it from blocking new UK laws on small boats. So this is happening in Iceland. At the Council of Europe summit in Iceland today, the Prime Minister will address European leaders on the issue of human rights challenge. But he will use the meeting to call for reform of the ECHR, etc., etc. Now, this is something that has to be understood in the context of the existence of the world, if you like, culture, political culture, since the end of the so called Second World War or the Second European War in the 1945. The foundation of the United Nations, the founding aims of the United Nations, where were the founding aims of the United Nations? Let's check on the founding aims. Main objectives of the United Nations are the maintenance of international peace. Remember that. On the day where I'm reading, on the day that the British newspapers are celebrating the latest victory by the parasite Zelensky from Ukraine, appearing to have taken over NATO as well as the United Kingdom for hostilities with Russia, not for peace. So the main objectives of the United Nations are the maintenance of international peace and security, the promotion of well-being of the peoples of the world. It doesn't say the well-being of the peoples of a little country at all, but the peoples of the world, and international cooperation to these ends. The United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945 after the Second World War by 51 countries, committed to maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, and promoting socially progressive, better living standards and human rights. Now, where does it say anything that Suela, Ibila, Cruella, Fernandez has been saying this week. Where does it say that? Nowhere. So the United Nations is being openly denied any relevance to the government, to the purpose of the United Kingdom. So there are some focused summaries about the main purpose of the United Nations. So it says the aims and objectives of the UNO are to prevent international conflict between nations, to facilitate cooperation among states, to bring countries together, to improve the prospects of social and economic development all over the world, not in one part of the world, and to maintain international peace and security. The preamble of the United Nations Charter describes four areas that are the pillars of the United Nations: peace and security, human rights, the rule of law, and development. So the United Nations is extensively available, accessible to be cited as directly relevant to what is happening today in the world, especially in the parasite Zelensky being celebrated in the completely offensive, warmongering way by the British and the British press and the British establishment, which is all of these promotion for the parasites are contrary to the United Nations. The fact that in Iceland today, Rishi Sunak is reportedly going to say that the ECHR should be watered down is logically a prelude, something that happens before the next one, which is that if the logic is followed, then he will say, let's disband the United Nations. There has been no organization with the aims of the United Nations at any other time. It is that precious. Just like the case of the founding of the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, the principle of the Health Service, National Health Service, has been absolutely laudable. And right from the beginning of the foundation of the National Health Service, forces that are hostile to the provision of health service, health care at the point of need, have been active to undermine the National Health Service. And this is where the role of these possible next government in the United Kingdom, fronted by Keir Starmer, comes in. He is called by us the political murderer of the Labour Party. Why do we call him that? Because the Labour Party was founded to counter the agenda of fascists and selfish rich people, rich forces, and to promote the agenda of society, peace, harmony, progress, tolerance, fairness. Now, nothing that Keir Starmer says or has said in his period since he became holder of the post of leader of the Labour Party suggests that he cares about the founding purpose of the Labour Party or the Labour Party's relevance to delivering a fair society in Britain. And the silence continues. All the attacks on the most vulnerable people in this country by the conservatives, by the revivalist fascists in the conservative party like Suella, Cruella, Ibila, Fernandez, and others of our ilk, all of these far right fascistic denials of society are taking place without any intervention by or from or in the name of the Labour Party in this country, which is the numerically the likely kind of source organization that will form the next government, theoretically. So, going back to the court cases that Harry Windsor has been involved in against the tabloid newspapers, against the Daily Mirror, for example, what they're doing, that cases are not only delivering evidence, evidence of the inadequacies of the existing press and the regulators to deliver accurate, truthful coverage, but it's also delivering evidence of offering a commentary that a proper would-be government in waiting should have been offering, which is the Labour Party, which has not been offering that commentary. So by default, Harry's actions are also doing the things that the Labour Party should have been doing as an opposition party, not because it's Labour Party, but as an opposition party holding the executive to account or executives to account. And that actually also highlights the inadequacies of the judicial system. So these are issues or topics that will be continued to be updated in SFOs. So what can we look at in terms of international events? For example, let's see what else is happening in Iceland. The Reykjavik summit is the first Council of Europe summit in 15 years. And there are two big items on Rishi Sunak's agenda: Ukraine and immigration. The Prime Minister is in Iceland for the summit, where he will meet with European leaders and the European Court of Human Rights. So Rishi Sunak is talking against the true purposes of the United Kingdom government. He is attacking immigration and is attacking peace. He is part of the propaganda for the side in relation to the war between Russia and Ukraine, and is attacking the immigration. Now, where do you begin to condemn the stupidity and the irrelevance of this behavior? In the United Kingdom, currently, they kind of dress it down, the expression they use about the actual poverty agenda. UK poverty agenda, let's check. So, this piece that is accessible on the website of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, The Essential Guide to Understanding Poverty in the United Kingdom, and it's dated the 26th of January 2023. UK Poverty 2023 sets out recent trends in poverty across the UK. So let's check. So this is the thing that Rishi Sunak is hiding. The widespread poverty that dominates the lives of so many people and dominates the negligent role being played by the government, UK government. So a lot of the statistics are taken from the Department for Want and Poverty Creation. These are the references: the All Party Parliamentary Group for Ending Homelessness, then Bank of England, how has COVID affected households, and other items. Essentially, millions of people in the United Kingdom, millions of people in the United Kingdom are denied basic income, universal basic income, which means that the millions of people in the United Kingdom go through every day without basic needs being met. This is a violation, serious violation of human rights, violation perpetrated, tolerated, encouraged, allowed by the UK government, centrally and locally. But reading the papers or looking at the main agenda of the media, for example, the agenda as connected with the activities of Rishi Sunak, who is the incumbent in the post of Prime Minister, it would be impossible to connect him with the reality of what people are experiencing. And again, in the case of the so called opposition, so called parliamentary opposition, democratic opposition, it is very difficult to connect the behavior of Rishi Sunak as well as it is very difficult to connect the behavior of Keir Starmer with the lives of the majority of the people suffering, going through hardship, denial, and lack of basic income, basic support. And looking at the news coverage, there is no mention of these in the news coverage of the day. The only thing that is mentioned is, for example, the parasiting of the United Kingdom by the parasite fronting the propaganda for parasite operations. Zelensky from Ukraine. Where is the demand for accountability? Where is the demand for an end to the billions of pounds being given to the war effort instead of being spent in meeting the needs of the millions of people who are in semi poverty or full poverty, in hunger, semi hunger, and starvation and homelessness? Now, moving the topic away from that into the role of the judiciary in relieving poverty, in actually holding to account the ones that cause poverty, including the agency, the department, DWP, which we called deprivation, want, and poverty creation, DWP. There is no role. There is a role, but the role is being withheld by the judiciary, which is taking all the comments back to the role of the three High Court judges, three High Court sittings that took place about the then DEFRA, the depraved Department for the Environment, attacking the innocent baby angel Geronimo. And the three High Court judges serially, they didn't sit together, the serial sitting, they sat in three separate sittings. All three of them played the role of stooges for the depraved government. The evilness called Christian Middlemas, the evilness called George Eustace, evilness called the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So the poverty the ordinary people are suffering, lack of justice, lack of fairness, lack of accountability that the ordinary people, ordinary victims of the British government policies, decision making are suffering. is being allowed, not only allowed, but being accentuated, aggravated by the active role of corruption and as a stooge at various levels, various stages of the UK government, centrally and locally, by the judiciary. So, what is happening in Pakistan with Imran Khan? Because he is in court or has been in court this week as well. Let's see what happened. Imran Khan arrest library. In a video statement, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chief Imran Khan said the government building, well, this is 33 minutes ago. So these are Times of India. Times of India would not normally run a piece about Imran Khan in this way. The fact that it is running the story shows that even the Times of India, which is hostile to democratic movements in Pakistan, cannot hide the truth. Imran Khan's arrest live updates. In a video statement, Pakistan Tehreek Insaf chief Imran Khan said the government buildings and the Lahore Corps commander's house were ransacked under the organized conspiracy. The Pakistan National Assembly on Monday approved a resolution against the Supreme Court of the country over the release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Meanwhile, Khan's wife Bushra Bibi was granted bail until May 23rd by a Pakistan court in a graft case. Khan had returned to his wife Bushra Bibi. Khan had returned to his Lahore home on Saturday after having locked himself in the Islamabad High Court premises for hours for fear of rearrest, despite being granted bail on Friday. Stay with Times of India for the latest updates on Imran Khan and Pakistan. So, what is happening in the case of the Indian newspapers, like the Times of India, is that the irregularities, the illegalities, the criminalities by the Pakistan regime currently in post have reached such a level that even the Times of India, which pretends to be a free newspaper or, well, an independent news organization, not part of the Modi government or the Indian government propaganda agenda, has to pretend that it is recognizing what is going wrong in the most basic democratic principles being violated in Pakistan by the Pakistan government in place at the time. The Well, there is a small piece about the UK universities marketing internationally. The UK universities, which behave as prostitutes in the grab for business from the so called less developed countries, this is now recognized as even the prostitution business is going down as compared with the business that is put on the market by the counterparts in China, making its mark. Then the UK universities, like the Nazi Germany institutions, are not moral organizations. They are immoral organizations. That is the thing. Just like the judiciary in the United Kingdom is immoral. The parliament in the United Kingdom is immoral. The government in the United Kingdom is immoral. The opposition, currently fronted by the political martyr of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, is immoral. And the media, of course, is immoral. Because despite the fact that the Times newspaper website is running this item headed UK University Slide Down Global Rankings as China makes its mark, it is still resisting the truth, publishing the truth. So these are all parts of the essay length investigation that we shall be continuing, updating on. This one is going to be ended at 1 hour 17 minutes or 1 hour 18 minutes at 15:21 hours GMT on Tuesday the 16th of May 2023.